Technology has been a major part of the creation of this project. It's played a major role in the research and planning, production and editing of my music video. The most important piece of equipment that I've used in the production of this work has definitely been the Apple Mac. The Macs have been used for a vast majority of the work I produced due to the ease of which I can access the software needed for the work I was doing. There was, however, the downside that if the system went down, then I would not be able to finish the work I was doing, as it was saved to the Mac and didn't necessarily have the programs needed to finish on any other device. When I first started the project, my first step was to create a blog with which I would track my progress and ensure that I was doing everything I needed in order to be fully prepared to finish my project. As with all websites, there was the possibility that it would be down for maintenance, which would make it inaccessible and prevent me from completing my work for as long as it was unavailable. However, the biggest problem was actually remembering to keep the blog posts up and ensuring that I would actually blog my progress of the day. The website, however, does have the added bonus of there being an app for use on iPads or iPods, which I have since downloaded so I can blog while I'm out and doing things. I often created PowerPoint presentations in order to easily group the information and research that I gained from various sources using Safari. Safari was a very useful resource for me as it meant that I had access to a huge range of sources and data. However, with the internet, there is always the possibility that the information that I have found and used could be incorrect or not particularly useful. If this were to happen, and I unknowingly used incorrect information to work the codes and conventions of my music video, it would then be, as a result, be unsuccessful and not gain good audience feedback or appeal to the target audience. I also used Safari to access Scribd. Scribd was a very useful website with which I used to upload my PowerPoint presentations or Word documents, as it meant that my planning would be well documented and easily tracked. It's good and useful as being connected to Facebook. I can easily share documents with my friends and other people that I feel might need to or want to see them. This would be very useful in terms of distributing feedback forms or questionnaires. However, I only really use the website to post presentations and documents that I would then embed on my blog. This website is also very slow and quite difficult to upload to, which means that time is often wasted waiting for upload. It often tends to move elements of my presentations around the page in an attempt to compress the page for ease, meaning that the presentations can look unprofessional and awkward. YouTube was also very important as I needed to look at examples of music videos within my chosen genre so that I would have an idea of the codes and conventions. It's also the first resource I went to in order to find the song that I would use for my music video. YouTube, however, goes through updates quite frequently, meaning that it can become more difficult to find the videos that you want. There is also the issue that sometimes videos are region blocked, meaning that if you live in a certain region or country, you can't always see the video as a result of restrictions. There is also the problem of distraction. Often when you use YouTube, it's very easy to get distracted by other videos you've heard about and want to watch, or other videos your classmates might be watching. This means that you may end up stopping your work and doing something else entirely, which is not particularly useful. I've also made use of video editing programs in the research and editing aspects of the project. For the research and planning aspect of the project, I've completed a lip syncing task. For this, I've made use of Photo Booth to capture the footage, as well as Final Cut to edit the footage. Final Cut, as a much more sophisticated editing program, was useful to completing this to a higher standard and preparing me to start my final project. It can, however, be very confusing as it is a highly sophisticated piece of software and the layers of footage are very easy to mix up and cause confusion. During the research and planning section of my project, I made use of Photoshop in order to create an interesting and accurate suggestion of the band or artist representation. For this, I chose to Photoshop into one whole image all of the elements that I felt would best present the band. Photoshop was a very useful program as you are able to edit photos and images together in a way that appears almost seamless. However, it was a very difficult program to master, and despite my 5 years of use, I'm still unsure of how to do particular things. But then there are always YouTube tutorials to fall back on. I've also used Wordle in order to visually present the lyrics of the song and fully understand what was prevalent and therefore more important to include. Wordle is a very nice way to present lyrics and very good in that it's clear and easy to understand. I also created a Prezi presentation. As being more interactive, I felt that it would be a much more interesting way for me to present my progress and plan out the next steps. Prezi is like a digital brainstorm and therefore makes it more interesting for me to present work on it, as well as making it clear which slide relates to which slide. It makes it very easy for me to work out where I am currently and where I intend to go. It is, however, very complicated, and on first use it's very awkward to navigate, but there are helpful suggestions that pop up while you work to make sure that you're able to use it properly. As a part of my project, I also needed to create a digipack and webpage. Therefore, I needed strong images that clearly presented the band in the way that I wanted it. For this, I used my Nikon Coolpix camera, as it would be better than using my camera phone. I was able to take good high-quality photos and vary between using flash or no flash, therefore meaning that I'd get a nice variety of photographs that would look different despite being taken in the same place. The downside of using this camera was that the battery life is always very short, and as a result, they start to run out before I finished taking the photographs. This meant that I did have to use my camera phone for some photos. I then needed to edit the photographs and chose to use PicMonkey to do this, as it was much easier to use than Photoshop and much more accessible, being that the school Macs did not have Photoshop on them. PicMonkey was very able to make the images look the way that I wanted to, and was very efficient. The end results were effective and I was happy with them. However, some of the tools were difficult to use and some you were unable to use unless you had a registered account, which did limit some of what I wanted to do. It was easily come, however, because the selection of tools that could be used was so broad and diverse. In order to create my web page, I made use of the Apple program iWeb, which I found to be easily worked out and navigated, as well as able to give a very professional look to the final product. It could be considered too simple, as it was as only the basics were really achievable. It was very difficult to do interesting things with the web page design, such as making it interactive or work like a real web page would. For example, you couldn't have a photo gallery wherein the images would be enlarged if clicked on. To film my music video narrative sections, I used the Handycam. This was good because we had enough Handycams that every group to take one and film what they needed to. The Handycams film fairly decent quality and are portable. It's also easy to re-watch footage just after filming it, which means that time can be saved later on if a mistake has been made but not spotted. However, they are often out of focus and very difficult to get back into focus. We also used the HDV camera to film the performance shots. This was a very expensive piece of equipment that the school only has one of. As such, it could be very difficult to get an unlimited amount of time with it, as it was in high demand. This was because the footage is captured at very high quality and it is possible to put effects on the footage while you film. For example, the first piece of performance for my music video was purposely shot out of focus to add a sense of intrigue and mystery. The HDV camera was very difficult to transport, which meant that we would only really be able to film on-site or nearby. It was bulky and difficult to manage. For one narrative section of the music video, we wanted to film in Valentine's house in Ilford, as we felt that this was an interesting location that would look good. In order to gain filming permission, we needed to contact the owners of the house. To do this, we made use of Gmail, as this was the easiest means of communication for us all. The only downside to using Gmail was that we used only one group member's account, so we needed to wait to find out the responses we gained and had to rely on that group member checking their account regularly. We also made use of mobile phones in the production of our coursework, as we needed to remain in contact with each other. Swapping phone numbers was the simplest way for us to communicate. It was fast and generally reliable. Although there is the issue in that often networks go down. Mine, for example, often stops working or loses signal in particular parts of the building. This means that it's very easy to lose communication. There is also an issue of reliability. For example, some group members may be easier to get a hold of than others. In the editing section of my coursework, I have again made use of Final Cut. By now, however, I have a slightly better understanding of it as a result of the lip-syncing task. I was better able to keep track of the 9 different footage tracks that we had, as well as work out, due to better organisation, which footage bins I needed at which points. The effects were very good on Final Cut and worked very well in what we needed to achieve and what we wanted to show. It was very easy to test an effect and remove it before trying a new one or trying both together to see if they worked. A big problem was that it took a very long time to render after doing something, our project particularly because of the size of it. We also had multiple issues with exporting for upload when editing was finally finished. With the help of our teacher, though, this was easily remedied.